All right, I want to talk about some words that I use, and I wanted to get them all in one video so that you could use it as a reference. The first word I use quite a bit is gravity, and I don't know what gravity is. I don't think anybody does, but basically, gravity pulls you to the ground. Okay, so if you don't have your feet under you and you lose your balance, lose your stability, you're going to fall down. If you're not leaning on somebody that's holding you up, you're going to fall down. Okay? So gravity is a force that pulls you to the ground. All right. The next thing I want to talk about is force itself. Now, again, I don't really know what force is. I do know this. Force is used to do work, and force travels in straight lines. Okay? Force doesn't travel in a bent line unless something bends it. Okay? Force travels in straight lines, and the straight lines we talk about in football are parallel to the ground or at some angle to the ground, and either straight ahead, straight back, sideways, or 360 degrees of force we can make. It could be angled down, could be angled up, could be parallel to the ground, but it's at some degree of the perimeter. That's force, and we use force to do work. Now, work is taking and moving something over a distance. So let's say I take a 300-pound sled, okay, and I move it 10 feet, okay. I use force to move it 10 feet. I've done 300 foot-pounds of work, okay. So that sled, I've moved it. It's 300 pounds. I've moved it 10 feet, 300 foot-pounds of work. Okay? I've used force to move it. Okay? Now, if I move it and it takes me 5 seconds and another guy comes around and he does the same thing, moves the same sled, okay, 10 feet, it's a 300-pound sled, but he only takes 3 seconds to move that sled, the 10 feet. He's done the same amount of work, but he has developed more power. So power is doing work faster. Okay, the rate of work. It took me 5 seconds. I did work. It took him 3 seconds. He did work, but he was more powerful. Okay, we like that. Power is obviously a sport. Something that we use in our sport. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is load. Okay, now load is a made-up word, okay? And what it is now I want to apply it to a guy, okay? So I got a 300-pound guy. He's not a sled anymore, and he's standing straight up in the air, okay? I can push him pretty easily. I mean, he's just, he's got inertia. In other words, it's hard to push a 300-pound guy. But because he's, say, 6'4", I use his body as a lever, and I can push him pretty good, okay? Now, if he shortens himself up, if he condenses, makes himself shorter, okay, he's less of a lever, okay? And what I say, he's a harder load to push, okay? Why? Because he's more condensed. I don't have that lever, that nice tall 6'4" guy anymore. And if he adds a brace, okay, now what he's done is he's added friction, surface friction, okay, to oppose my force, and he's made it even harder for me to do my work. Okay, so he's braced. He could be braced with 2 legs, and now he's added gravity as well as friction. Okay, I'm holding that son of a gun up, man. He's pretty hard to push. Okay, so he's even harder to push. And finally, let's say he braces his legs, he condenses, he's 300 pounds, and he actively adds force against my force. That's the hardest load to push. Okay, that will be the hardest load for me to do work, no matter how powerful I am, no matter how much I have in my tank. Okay, that's the hardest load to push. Okay, well, an easy load, all right, what we want to use is momentum. We want to attack an easy load, a guy standing straight up, or a guy who's exposed himself, who can't brace against us, who can't really be condensed against us. He can't use friction, he can't use gravity, and he's not using force. We want to attack that person either directly at him or at an angle, and we want to attack him with speed. We want to attack him with acceleration, as much acceleration as we can, okay? And we should be able to develop momentum through that acceleration. We have to be able to control the momentum, because he can duck and make us miss, okay? So we can't be out of control, but we want to attack that guy. He can't resist us. He's not that heavy of a load. Now, when he becomes a heavy load, either through condensing, bracing, and friction, or actively opposing us, or all three, we want to use tools, okay? We know that if we condense ourselves, if we bend our knees, if we get gator legs, hip abduction, etc. I've explained gator legs in another spot. We're the same. We weigh the same. He's the same weight. He's got the same resistance and everything else. But we have mechanical advantage. We can generate more work, okay, using shorter legs, shorter load arms. We can generate more work. It takes us less muscle to do the same job, okay? So gator legs are the way we align our hips and legs. And hooks, okay, we shorten our arms by bending our elbows. We can do more work with hooks than we can with straight arms, okay? So hooks and gator legs are tools that enhance our ability to do work, all right? By bending, we've essentially made shorter load arms, okay? Our muscles are attached in the same spots, so our muscles are doing, they're doing the same job they always did, but they're doing it with mechanical advantage, okay? So they can do the work that a heavy load requires that long arms and long legs wouldn't be able to do, okay? So there we have it. That's pretty much really all you need to know about physics to play football or coach football, for that matter. And, you got to understand those concepts, okay? And I think you're in good shape. Bye.